Today we've got a 2015 model Toyota RAV4. It's got the 2.2 diesel engine and roughly 83,000 miles on the clock. So this vehicle has come in today for front brake pads and discs. So we'll go ahead and remove the wheel. So before you start, you're going to need to locate the locking wheel nut key. And people do keep them in all different places. Usually you find it in the glove box or in with the spare wheel and jack. So put that on now. And I'm just going to crack these loose before I jack the vehicle up. So before I start working on the brakes, I'm going to take this reservoir cap off, which is just a push fit rubber cap. Mainly because I'll be doing brake pads, I'll be pushing the piston back into the calipers and the fluid from the calipers will be forced back up the system into here. So we might get a bit of spillage, but there's not a great deal you can do about that, unfortunately. But you have to remember that if you do spill brake fluid anywhere, it makes a brilliant paint stripper, so make sure you've got some water to hand and maybe a soft cloth or some blue roll. Right, so now these are all loose anyway. I'll get this wheel off. And just get ready to catch the wheel. Sometimes they're stuck on and sometimes they launch themselves off at you. Yeah, that one's loose. Well, I'll turn this round on lock. A bit easier to see what's going on and to work on it. So we've got two bolts securing the caliper to the carrier, and they are 14mm. And they have got a 17mm nut there that you can just put a spanner on to stop the slider from spinning if it spins, but it doesn't look like it's going to. That's one caliper off. So you can see now the brake pads are getting very low. Sometimes they can stick in the carrier, which would cause symptoms like a seized caliper because the caliper squeezes them against the disc and they don't release properly. They seem fairly loose, but yeah, you can see the lining there is getting quite thin towards the metal backing. Right, so at this stage I think I'll push that piston back in there. You might want to grab a small screwdriver and have a look underneath the seal, or just have a look and make sure it hasn't got any splits or holes in it. That's when the water can get in and cause it to seize. So you can see the piston there. That's how it should be, nice and shiny and clean. When they get a bit of dampness in there, they get corroded and they don't return properly. But hopefully that'll go back in smoothly. Just takes a bit of pressure. Push it in slowly. forcing all the fluid back up the brake lines to the reservoir. That's it, that's fully retracted. I'll just tuck this out of the way around here. Lovely, and next we'll get the caliper carrier off. Right, so we've got two 17mm head size bolts on the back there that hold the carrier to the stub or the knuckle. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove those two, get the carrier off. Oh, yeah, quite tight. And as you can see, the disc literally just slides off now. So we'll take this carrier to the vise and give it a clean up. Disc's got quite a lip on it, that's why they're being changed. Right, so with this now in the vise, just want to check that these sliders are okay. Sometimes these can seize, and that can give you the same symptoms as a seized brake caliper as well. It's a good idea just to give them a little, work them in and out a bit. It's where they sat in the same position for a long time. As you can see, they stick a little bit. You can take them right out, clean them all up and grease them. I don't think there's any need with this one. So you've got these little shims in here, anti-rattle clips where the brake pads sit. I'm going to give those a bit of a dust off while they're still fitted. Four of those. Then I'm going to actually remove them as well, if I can. They should just flick out. Oh, that one's coming out easier. Just so I can clean the other side. I need a quick dust off, make sure there's nothing, no debris in there. And then on this, I'll take a file. I'm not looking to take any thickness off the metal, but you can see it's all kind of pickled up. The water sits between these shims and the carrier, and it causes a bit of corrosion. I just find the file's quite effective at getting the surface corrosion off. Like I say, I'm not looking to take any thickness out of it. And then give that another dust off. It's worth doing because when that pickles up, it sort of pushes these out slightly. With them both out, then you find the brake pads are really tight fits, and they can stick like that, which, you know, it'll end up holding the brake on and wearing your pads out prematurely. So I'll carry on, do the same again for the other three, and then we'll get it back on the vehicle. That's it, back together. Right, so this disc out of the box, you can see they do come with a bit of an oily residue on them. I'm just going to use some brake cleaner just to give it a quick wipe over on the surface where the pads go. It's just like an anti-corrosion coating they put on so they don't rust in the box in the storage. That should do. And before I put it back on there, it's worthwhile making sure this is clean and there's nothing on there that's going to not allow the disc to sit flatly on there. Any debris or anything. But that all looks pretty good to me. Alright, so we'll just slot the disc back on. Doesn't need to go round any particular way. It's got a couple of little holes there. Sometimes discs are held on with a little grub screw just to hold it in place while you assemble the thing. But these are actually threaded holes. That's just to help with the removal. If the disc is rusted on and seized, you can just take a couple of bolts, wind them in there, and it acts like a puller. They push against the hub and pop the disc off. But that's fine like that. We'll get the caliper carrier on next. Right. Got these two 17mm bolts to go in. That's it. Buzz those up. Right, they're nice and tight. Right, next we'll prepare the pads and get them in. Right, so as you can see, we've got the new pad there, the old pad there. See the difference in the thickness. Still a little bit on there, but there we go. So a few things on here. We've got these anti-rattle shims, which need to come off. They should just unclip. Now, they should go. Oh, but actually the new pads have already got something on there. I'll see if these will go on as well. They seem to sit on there okay. And you've also got this, which as the brake pad gets lower and lower, just before it touches metal on the disc, this is supposed to be round a bit like that. So that will drag on the disc and make a horrendous scraping, squeaking noise. So we'll just alert you that the pads are getting extremely low and that they need attention before you damage the disc. So I'll refit those. Looks like they've got one on each pad. Usually you only get one on each side. It looks like both pads have got them. Yep, that's it. The next thing in preparation is just to put some copper grease on the ears. I guess these actually they hold the pad under tension as well once it's fitted, because it is right on the end and it's spring loaded. Okay, we'll go ahead and fit these back in the carrier. So I am doing the identical job on the other side of the car, and as you can see, look how thin that pad is. Maybe that one has been sticking slightly. But yeah. Right. That's it. And as you can see there, they move freely, which is what you want. Right, so that's all in place. I'll just get this caliper back on now. Yeah. Oh, you can see now that that slider is spinning. So I need to hold that still with the spanner. That's it. They're both nipped up tight. Lovely. Right, okay. So I'm happy that everything's tight on there. It's all as it should be. Can't turn it 'cause it's in park. Whoa. Just go and grab the locking wheel nut key. Right, obviously I've done exactly the same job on the other side. Now the wheel's back on, we can drop it down and check the tightness of the wheel nuts. In properly. As with all nuts and bolt fixings on a car, you will find a torque figure somewhere, and if you've got a torque wrench handy, that's great. But yeah, you just got to be sensible about these things. Always like to check them by hand after using air tools. I'd imagine it's somewhere in the region of 120 Newton meters. But that's it, that's nice and tight. Right, now the work's finished on the brakes. I took the cap off earlier, and fortunately the fluid hasn't risen so much as to overflow out of there. It is just above the maximum, which is fine. One of the most important parts of the job when you finish is to make sure you pump the brake pedal, because you'll find the first application of the brakes will do next to nothing. The pedal will just go to the floor probably twice. So you need to pump the pedal to get the pistons back out of the calipers. There. Didn't take much doing. The level is fractionally over the maximum, but that's fine. There's still a big air gap at the top there. So we'll just get the cap back on. Make sure that's on properly, because you don't want any moisture getting in there. Brake fluid absorbs moisture, which is why it's a good idea to get it changed regularly, sort of every 2 to 3 years. It's a good idea. Now that all the brake work is complete on the car, I'm happy I've done everything up tight. I've pumped the brake pedal, put the reservoir cap back on. It's all good to go. So, like all of my jobs, I'll take this out for a bit of a road test, make sure the brakes are all working correctly and not making any funny noises. I'll probably run it back in here afterwards and just give it a quick once over. Thanks for watching. If you find our videos helpful, please hit like and subscribe to help us out. Nice one.